Welcome back to the Ohio MMA podcast. I am your host, David McKinney. Joining me on the podcast today, new Signature Combat Sports lightweight champion Hayden Jacoby. What's up, man?
How's it going? I'm doing pretty well.
Doing great, man. So, you coming off the win? Still got the black eye. It's fresh. You got the first round submission win though. But talk me through the fight, man. How'd it go?
Yeah, it went exactly about how I thought it was gonna go. Knowing what I knew about Jake, um, from what I've seen, his fights start off very energetic. He's trying to get people to the ground, and he wants to submit me. I knew that was coming, so I kind of just weathered the storm, and exactly with the black eye. Yeah, he brought it to begin with. I believe he tried throwing me. This all happened within about first 30 seconds. We went to the ground. I kept calm in his guard and laid in some ground and pound when I could.
Yeah, so two titles in about what, like 5 weeks. So you went down to Kentucky, won the ECC title down there, and then won the lightweight title here. You actually won a welterweight title and a lightweight title. What's it like getting two titles back to back pretty quickly?
Yeah, it's kind of unreal. One of the things I said down in Kentucky is I'm a full-time college student. I leave for college tomorrow, and classes start up Wednesday. So I'm doing all this with on and off training. So to be able to accomplish all this is just unreal.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. With you're now 6-2, and only being able to basically fight when during breaks in college. That's pretty crazy.
Exactly.
But so I did a little bit of research on you, and I know you're from like the Cary, Northwest Ohio area, and train out of demolition, but you go to school at Worcester, and I know you have, of course, MMA, the wrestling background, football background, but at Worcester. You actually compete in the decathlon, which is crazy. I mean, people, of course, with the Olympics just happening, a lot of people are getting more familiar with the decathlon. How did you get involved in doing essentially every track and field sport that there is?
Yeah, that's a throwback right there. Yeah, so going into my first year of college, I knew I wanted to do track and field. I was unsure if I wanted to do wrestling. They don't even have wrestling at the College of Worcester, so I was fine with that. I wasn't looking to be a college wrestler, but yeah, I just kind of thought, well, I think I'm a pretty well-rounded individual. So I thought, let's try doing it all. Decathlon is a test of that. How good are you at everything?
What was your best event and what was your worst event in the decathlon?
um, I think in terms of scoring, I think my best event was actually the 400-meter. Even though I like to call myself a pole vaulter. I think in terms of scoring, my best was the 400, and then my worst by far was the 110 hurdles. Those hurdles are tall.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching the hurdles during the Olympics, and I'm like, I forget the name of the woman, but she's like, just blazing everyone, and it's like, yeah, for the 400, I'm like, man, that's crazy. I tried hurdles one time in seventh grade, and I think I kicked over every single one of them. So my hurdle days were not very long, but that's awesome, man. I feel like a lot of people, if you're in track, you're like, oh, I do one or two events, but doing the heptathlon or the decathlon is pretty crazy. That's awesome. I also see that you do like some running and cross country. Are you big into the cross country? Have you done like distance races, or do you mostly just like the 5Ks with cross country, or you want to do some half marathons or marathons or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think it gets even crazier mentioning cross country because I just started running cross country for the first time ever, just last year. That was my first ever season running cross country, and that's not like I've never done it in high school, middle school. I just decided my junior year of college, let's try something a little more extreme. I knew the cardio would be amazing. Um, the so I'll run at the meets at the college, which are 8Ks, so 5 miles. So that's kind of the distance we go, and then for practices, it can range anywhere from 3 to 7 miles.
Gotcha. I'm training for a marathon right now, so I get you on the running, man. Especially in the heat, it's crazy. I'm like, I want it to cool down a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I think eventually it'd be pretty cool to say I ran a marathon or a half marathon. What I really want to get into is I want to be able to do a triathlon.
Yeah, yeah, I've actually done 2 triathlons as well, and I enjoy that it's not just running. Like you said that with the decathlon, you train for different things. Like running after a while, you're like, man, this gets monotonous. But then training actually for swimming and the bike as well. That's pretty cool, man. I enjoy I enjoy like every sport, and I feel like it's kind of cool that you've done a bunch of different sports in addition to kind of like the traditional I know you played football as well and wrestling and it's always funny to see like I was talking with Matt Comer who I know is trained at Demolition and he won a Big Ten championship in college in the 4x400 and so he's like a track guy too and it's like how do you don't see a lot of track guys getting into MMA so that's kind of cool but speaking of Demolition you're training out of that gym and you guys just seem to be on a really big role. I mean, so many guys, so many active fighters. What's it like being in a gym that's kind of that deep? Like, you've got so many training partners, everyone from debut amateurs all the way up to UFC level pros.
Yeah, I think when it comes to just how many killers that we have in that gym, you know, whenever you're getting a practice, a gauntlet in, you got your sparring sessions, you can count on getting quality work just from about anyone.
Yeah.
It's amazing having just such a variety of talent in that gym.
So and interesting in looking at your record, you actually made your debut a couple of years ago, and your first couple of fights actually went to a decision. But then since then, I don't think you've had a decision. What was kind of the turnaround and the first couple fights go in the distance, which a lot of times it's kind of the opposite. Whereas like, you start to step up in competition and it's hard to finish guys, but you're kind of the opposite where, your first 2 fights went the distance and then now you're going out there finishing guys.
Yeah, I think what I can attribute that to, and it's hard to say specifically, but I think it's just I'm still getting ring rust off. So like I have a good wrestling background, sure, but I don't want to give up good position to go in for a submission. We'll say so that first match specifically, I felt like I took him down, and I didn't know what to do from there. Now it's like I'm getting used to being in those situations and know how to transition if I do find myself in bad positions. So that kind of just allows me to get finishes more frequently, more often, things like that.
Yeah, and you've won 3 in a row now, and as I mentioned, 2 title fights. But looking back, you had a fight actually about a year ago. You lost via a kind of a tough knockout to Martin Ruckschloss, and that was actually a title fight as well. What's it like, kind of having to, unfortunately, obviously, no one ever wants to get knocked out, but what's it like coming back from that and like kind of getting your confidence back, getting back in the gym, and like of course, this is MMA, so anything can happen. But how do you kind of rebound from that? Because you definitely have been really impressive in your last 3 fights. And but what was that kind of the mindset after the knockout loss?
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of backwards thinking this is, but after the knockout loss, it's like I was less afraid. Maybe it's because now, hey, finally I got knocked out. It happens in the sport. So you can just kind of take that and you know what the worst of it could be. So and one of the things that was convenient maybe was I was already in college at that point. So I came back from the school to have that fight. And then I went back, kind of reassessed some things, took care of cross country and track and field. And then it was just time to during the breaks, as you said, yeah, that's the only time I get to train. So once I came back, then I could fully reassess and just having that time away off at the college, I think also allowed me to kind of take it all in, what went wrong, what went right. It wasn't that long of a fight, but I'd say there's still a lot of things I could have analyzed there.
Gotcha. And you're actually studying. Are you still studying geology? I saw that was originally your major. How did you? What made you decide on geology?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think simply put, I like the idea of how our Earth has evolved over time. Just so trying to better understand how we got here on this planet. Um, it's all pretty fascinating to me. Uh, Alongside that, it's like crystals, minerals. They look pretty, you know. Why not just get like a job looking at cool things?
Yeah, that's cool. I actually does Worcester College of Worcester have a big geology program?
I wouldn't say they have the biggest program. The whole school is pretty small. We're looking at like only 2,000 undergrads, so it's a tiny college. Um, so it's small to begin with, and I don't think the department itself is known to be pretty big within that small campus.
Gotcha. Yeah, sometimes you see when people have kind of unique, degrees, and they're from a small school. It's like, oh, this school happens to be like the best school in this field. But that's kind of cool. I've been to Worcester. I love Worcester. It's an awesome little town. But what's it like coming from that part of Ohio to you're from a small town growing up originally, but obviously not a big like culture shock going to a small school, but what's it like being that far away from home, still in college, and being active, and kind of seems like you have a lot going on in terms of of course the MMA side of things, but then also school as well.
Yeah, so the town of Worcester, it's decent sized. Yeah, it's comparable to Findlay in some regard, but like the college itself, yeah, it's tiny. I don't I don't see too much of culture shock aside from the fact that the College of Worcester is very diverse. Um, they're bringing in students from all over the world constantly, so it's amazing. The fraternity that I'm a part of on campus, we have it's so diverse. Love to call every one of them my brothers, but um, yeah, in terms of how far I am away from home, it's not terrible because if anything does happen, I can drive back. But I do like to spend my time on campus, kind of get away from things, enjoy the time over there. So it's
Yeah.
it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's funny you were on the event you just were on was called Route 30 Rumble, and Worcester is like right on Route 32, just
Yeah,
a couple hours away. So that's same stay on the same road. But so you've kind of bounced back and forth between welterweight and lightweight, and you actually now have won titles at both. And it's something I see a lot of demolition fighters doing. Kind of bouncing back and forth between weights. Is that something that Gary kind of preaches, Gary Young, your coach, that, the weight doesn't necessarily matter as much sometimes as the matchup? Or like, because I see a lot of guys, not just you, but like Dylan, when Dylan Budko was fighting, everywhere from middleweight to heavyweight, amateur and pro. Is that something that your gym kind of preaches, or like, what's the mindset behind the weight classes?
yeah, that's interesting. The one thing that I felt like I've always understood with Gary is he will find a matchup for fighters. He believes if they truly give it their all, they should win, right? So regardless of the weight, if they're going in there with the mindset they're going to win and they give it their all, they should be coming out victorious. Um, and yeah, sometimes like I find myself right in between that range of being a 170 pounder and a 55er. So it's like matchups at 55 or 70 should be just fine. I don't feel like I'm giving up much at either weight class.
Gotcha. Um, how did you get the nickname Sasquatch?
That's kind of funny too. So I've had this nickname since well heck, it might be since my seventh grade year, junior high. So the wrestling program that we have, before everyone goes out, or like before a wrestler goes out for their match, we'll huddle around them and we'll send them off with a funny nickname. And it just turns out everyone called me Sasquatch right before I went out, because I guess well, yeah, at the time had massive amounts of hair on my legs and forearms, I guess. So to them, I look like a Sasquatch.
That's that's wild. I always love to hear it because you never know what the background of the nicknames are. Sometimes it's like it just randomly was this, or this has been my nickname since I was a kid. So I love that. So you actually have, and you've been fighting for 2 years, and you already have 8 fights. You're 6-2 now. What's your mindset and your thought process, and like what's kind of immediate future? Are you, I mean, obviously school is the immediate future, but like, are you going to try to get one in during like even Christmas break, or are you going to wait till next year? Um, and are you still thinking of staying in the amateur ranks, or do you want to try to jump into the pro ranks soon?
Yeah, so I've had fights during the winter breaks. The only thing that's unfortunate is the winter break compared to the summer break is it's a lot shorter. We're only looking at 3 weeks maybe compared to like 3 months. So if something does come up during the winter, I'd say it could be fair game. In terms of being an amateur still, um, I since I compete at the NCAA level in college, I'm not allowed to become a professional yet, due to amateurism. I'm not allowed to earn money through another sport. So I constantly say I'm going to remain an amateur until I graduate college. Once I'm done with NCAA, I think that's going to be about the time I turn pro.
Gotcha. Do you have kind of a north star and like how everybody eventually wants to be the world champion, but realistically, like what's your like main thing in the sport of MMA where you're like, man, I gotta, this is what I want to accomplish. You're still very young. I think you're 23, right? So you're still
Yeah.
very very young in the sport, and only 2 years into fighting, but where's that kind of like that goal down the line?
Yeah, and when you say 2 years, it's like how much of that is actually training with all this back and forth college breaks and stuff. I'd say maybe a solid year and a half of training because when I'm at the college, it's little to none. Um, y- and then, um, could you repeat the other part of that?
Yeah,
The
what's your eventual goal in this sport? Where,
right,
where do
right,
you see yourself wanting to eventually wind up?
yeah. So I like to see myself as a pretty down to earth kind of guy. So I like to say I'll take it as far as I can take it, and if that's running some smaller division in the pro scene, I'll do it. If that means I'm getting a title, like if I'm getting Dana White calling me up to be on Contender Series, hell yeah, I'm gonna take it. But at the end of the day, I'll be graduating with a bachelor's in geology, and if that's the route I want to take, sure. But I have a lot of different pathways I could be going about it. I'll take any of them as far as I can go.
Awesome, man. Yeah, you're definitely a really well spoken guy, which is awesome. I love talking to young fighters that have more on their plate than just fighting. Of course, fighting is important, but it seems like you've definitely got a bright future either way. So I always enjoy talking to people like that. And congrats again on the win, man. Moving up to 6-2, 3 wins in a row now. Yeah, that's got to be pretty exciting going into going back to school.
Yeah, it's still kind of unreal to think of how my career's panning out. It's just I'll be going into my senior year. It's my last one, and then yeah, we can finally think about full time fighting. And I said this at the I said it down in Kentucky. It's a part time fighter kind of thing, and it's kind of working out pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. It is cool to see someone that you've made such huge strides, I think, within the couple years. But anybody you want to thank, anything else you got to mention, sponsors, anything like that?
Yeah, no sponsors at the moment, though. I feel like it's about that time. I think I can start reaching out.
NIL, right?
Yeah. They just recently changed that for D3 athletes too, so could 100% go that route. Yeah, I just want to take this time to thank everyone at the gym because they push everyone there. Some of those guys are just killers, and you don't get that kind of work other places. Friends and family that always come out to support me. I don't know. Yeah, my mom's always dying in the stands because she's almost always there watching my fights. I don't know how she can do it. Um, Everyone at the college, it's yeah, go Scots. It's a fun time over there. about to go
Uh,
enjoy it some more.
yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining me. And I'm like I said, hopefully see you maybe in one more fight this year, and then if not, we'll see you back in the cage after you're a college graduate next year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's next for me. But yeah, it was great talking to you.
All right, that is Hayden Sasquatch Jacoby, 6-2, two division champ in multiple promotions, Ohio and Kentucky. And yeah, man, thank you so much. And we'll be back next week with another episode.